places. We want to get fast food burgers at a bunch of different spots, okay? So Fuku Burger, what else do we have here? Smash Burger, Shake Shack, Sonic, Chick-fil-A, Whataburger, In-N-Out Burger. So each day we're going to go to a different fast food place because I've never been to any of them, and then get their like burger and then rate it. So there's like 6 different burger places we're going to go.
I see your point. When it comes to taking a man with your bare hands, it's rather risky, isn't it?
You're very clever, Mr. Cannon. There's one flaw in your cleverness. It is as easy to kill you with these as with that.
Hey everybody, this is Josh Hagen and Tommy Macias. So for people that don't know who Tommy is, you probably don't follow that much judo.
If we took 2 golds in judo this week, I don't know what my heart might explode, but we've got a chance.
Judo is like different level.
Like judo is the best, in my opinion, for someone who's wearing clothes.
Joining me is Josh Hagen. Nobody better to talk judo with us.
How deep would you go? Judo's a good thing to learn, man, just period.
Let's get started. It's Judo's Calling with Josh Hagen and Tommy Macias. We are on one episode or another, less than 10, more than 4. So somewhere in there, maybe 8. We got one to release, and then there's this one.
I want to say 7, but yes.
Okay.
Somewhere around 4 and 10.
Yeah, somewhere between.
We're still enjoying it, so it's good.
Yeah. You've been traveling around and hitting training camps, and I've been traveling. I was in Toronto 2 weekends ago, and I was in Manitoba this weekend. So where were you last?
I were in Estonia last weekend. Came home 2 days ago. So it was training camp, Macias camp, a really good one.
How many attendants?
I think we were 220.
That's a lot.
Yeah. So and we only had I think we had 450 square meters. So and in 2 groups. So it was a lot of people on the mat.
Right.
But it was really, really fun, and I really enjoy Estonia. I must say maybe that Estonia is my favorite country. Canada, second place.
Okay.
Sorry, Josh.
It's okay. I've never been to Estonia. Does it have great food or just good people?
Good people.
Okay.
Good people.
Yeah.
The food is, I will not say anything about the food. But the people there, they are so nice.
You may have come back skinnier, is what you're saying. So maybe that's why you like Estonia. You're like, I go to Estonia, I lose weight because the food's very mediocre, but the people are good, so I have a good time.
Yeah, I had a really good time there.
That's good. Yeah, I'm currently in Toronto.
You can come next year to Macias camp in Estonia. I think I will come back.
Okay, that'd be fun. I'd enjoy that. Yeah, I'm in Toronto for the week. So I was just in Manitoba for the weekend, and then I flew to Toronto for the week, and I'm spending some time with my kids this week. And then this coming Sunday, I fly to Las Vegas, and then I go from Vegas straight to Montreal, and then I'm there for like 12 days. So both of us regular road warriors between places again. So
Team Montreal, what's in Montreal?
we have 2 really big tournaments. We have Quebec Open, which is technically, I don't think it's our biggest tournament in the country, but year in, year out, it's the toughest tournament in the country. It's a really large number of athletes. Everybody from Canada fights, sort of the equivalent of nationals. And then you also often have like some Americans or the odd international competitor. Brazilians often come. So it's just a really big, tough tournament. And then then we do a training camp for 3 days at the National Training Center. And then we have our international event on the IGF calendar. What do they call it? They call it the Canadian Pan Am. We call it the Canada Cup, but that's not really the name. It's like the Canadian Pan American Cup. Canadian Pan Am.
Isn't it the Pan American Cup?
Yeah, Montreal Pan Am Cup, something like
Canada.
that. So I think there's like 11 countries competing in that. So I'll have, from that, so Quebec Open, I think I have about 14. But if you're U16, you can't fight Canada Cup. So I think I've got only 6 or 7 fighting Canada Cup, something like that. So 2 tournaments and a training camp, and then I go back home. So I left my house Thursday, which was like October 26th or something, and I'll get home November 18th. So
Yeah, you have a big suitcase with you.
I have a huge yellow Judo Sask yellow duffel bag. Yeah, giant duffel bag. So it's like 3 weeks of.
And I can also see that you have picked some right clothes with you.
Yeah, I packed some.
It's a really nice jacket.
Yeah, some Sweden Olympic jacket. So pretty good. I don't know I can't remember where I picked this up, but it's a pretty nice jacket.
I had one of those before, but I lost it.
Yeah, I don't know. Can't remember. I got it sometime in July. So.
I don't remember I lost it, but yes.
Yeah. So any interesting feedback about the podcast?
Yes and no. Always some positive feedback. They like to listen, and but nothing new they want us to talk about. So
I got some that's like kind of negative, you could say. I have a longtime student who medals at nationals and all that. He's quite good, and he said the problem with the podcast is you and I agree on too much. He's like, you guys get along and agree too much, and I said, well, we agree on most judo things. He said you need to find something to disagree about. So, not the worst. Not the worst feedback, but I agree, not in a negative sense, but we do have very similar opinions of judo development, which is why we get along so well. But
yeah,
we could pretend to disagree on something. We could pretend to disagree on something. I could say that Sumigeishi is definably the greatest, most exciting throw in judo.
Yeah. That we can talk about. But I love discussing, so yeah, we can pick sides. But it's fun because I remember one of my athletes were listening the first episode, and she said that I lost a discussion with you, and that I'm never losing a discussion, so that's not. I said no, but he made you change your mind. And but if I change your mind, I might. It's not losing. It's so I know that we had some discussion before, but yeah, maybe we should discuss more. But I thought. I don't know which episode we posted last time, but with the rules, when we were talking about the rules, we were not agreeing on everything.
I haven't posted the rules one yet, so this will be a nice little when it releases. The last one I released was our podcast about confidence, building confidence. The rules one will be delivered soon. Yes.
Because I think we discussed a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I'll say we agree on most things, but there's like little nuances that make me think about it after.
Yeah, one part, I will not agree with you today, okay?
Okay, we'll definitely find something. Like men that are balding are far more handsome. That's another hot take. But I'm going with the balding men is a better look.
But that's just fun because, all the bald men, they always have a hat on or something. So they can hide it. So.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. So we had started talking before about something that I'm hoping to do, actually, that I think is kind of interesting, which is just in ways of, one, keeping judo interesting, but also makes sense developmentally. There's a number of countries that have national wrestling. Actually, one I'd never seen before is Switzerland has a type of wrestling. Have you ever seen that?
No.
Yeah, Switzerland has a national wrestling sport. They wear sort of like a pair of briefs that they can grab, kind of similar to Bok or Mongolian wrestling. So Switzerland has a national wrestling. Mongolia has a national wrestling called Bok. Russia has Sambo, and Georgia has Chidauba, and all of these have slight variations on rules. Also, Uzbekistan, what's that? Kuresh?
Isn't that Kazakh or Kurakushash? Kazakh Kurash.
I thought it was Uzbekistani.
Yeah. Okay.
But either way, similar rules.
It's fun that so many countries has this wrestling. I know Spain, or not Spain, but Canary Islands, where my father is from. They have also Luchas Canarias. That is also wrestling on the beach.
Okay.
So I also understand why judo is so big, because all of these countries, they have wrestling. They have a natural wrestling. They always wrestling. But in Sweden, we have nothing.
Right. You have ice and snow and skates.
Yeah, but we should have something like snow wrestling or
Yeah,
they
that's true.
throw each other from the hill wrestling. Or,
Yeah, they should call it like Yeti wrestling or like Abominable Snowman wrestling. Yeah. The Canary Islands, that's a country I've always wanted to go to. I know someone that went there in their high school years. It's supposed to be incredibly beautiful. Have you been to Canary Islands?
Yeah, my father's from there, so I've been many times.
Yeah. Is it beautiful?
Yeah, I think most countries are beautiful. It's not so many trees, but
Not so many trees.
no, but it's really nice African nature.
Okay.
But yeah,
You know what we
it's
should
a nice
do
one.
is
I really liked it there, and I remember we went there one time every year when I was a kid. My father is born there, and I think he moved to Sweden when he was 4. So, and he still has family left there. Yeah,
So
nice.
it sounds like when we have your dad on the podcast, it should be a podcast in the Canary Islands where we all have to meet. And because the podcast makes so much money, right? It's a business expense. It'll pay for us to go there to do the podcast in person.
Yeah,
Yeah, this is a good idea.
that's what we're gonna do.
Yeah, haven't been to Canary Islands yet. That'd be fun. Have your kids been yet?
No,
Okay.
the worst thing is that my kids they've never been to Spain, and I'm half Spanish.
You are, eh? Is that why
Yeah.
you sort of cheer for some Spanish fighters? It's like your other country.
No,
No, eh?
the only Spanish fights I'm sharing of is the one who have really good judo. So
Okay, it's only because of judo. It's not the lineage.
no, only for judo.
My background's Irish, but
I'm cheering for Irish guys.
problem is not a lot of Irish dominating on the tour. So it sort of limits my cheering ability. There's one guy, Ben, and there's a guy and his sister, right? Ben Fletcher
Yes,
and his sister. I can't remember her name. They were pretty good.
Meg future.
So as I was
Megan.
saying, back to the start of this is so Mongolia, they have Chidauba, and they wear this gi that
Georgia.
Georgia, and they have this gi that doesn't have sleeves, has fabric, sort of like a sleeveless judo jacket, basically. And there's a couple reasons it's interesting. One is I've had a number of athletes that are sort of struggling in some ways.
And they have shorts also,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. So you can't grab the legs. You can't drop. You can't do like a drop seoinage. And there's no sleeves to grab. And I've had a number of athletes that, number one, when athletes fall in love with some techniques, they start doing them too much. So it would prevent them from doing drop seoinages, where they're already good at them, but I need them to learn and work on more things. The other thing is the mistake they make with drop seoinage is they're often grabbing the sleeve, and when they do the uppercut, they're uppercutting like near the wrist. They're not actually getting it loaded into the armpit, which then it ends up becoming a bad seoinage. So if you don't have sleeves, you can't make this error, which is really good. So it would prevent that. Number two, it's fun to do something different that's very related. And then three, it forces them to like work on techniques they don't usually work on. So they can work more on their uchimata gaishis and their uranages and their koshigurumas and things like this. So I'm looking to source some Chidauba gis rather than just cut the sleeves off judo gis. Yeah.
I like the idea with cut off the sleeves.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's a really good one. But no, I don't think that's a good one. Because I'm not agreeing with you.
Okay.
No, but we talked about it before, and I thought, no, this is something I also want to do because I want to make a development in the training where the athletes cannot choose to go back to the basics.
Right.
And now we can force them away from it. I remember as young, I don't know if you also did, but I did a lot of runner without my judo gi, like on with belt and pants, and it was so different.
Yeah, it makes like
I think we did it one time every week for sure.
I didn't do it a lot growing up, but historically I've done it as a coach. So I've had kids doing it. I never did it growing up, but it's nice too because it's fun. It's just totally different than what they're used to, and one thing about developing in judo is you train a lot, and a lot of the training feels similar. So it breaks up the sort of monotony of doing the same thing all the time, but it forces them to utilize techniques they don't always utilize.
I think I will do more of that.
Yeah, so I just reached out to, I was just actually in Toronto. There's a club in the North End called Olympic Judo Center. It's got a lot of national champions, really good kids. And the two coaches, one, Roman, was Israeli senior national champion at 73 before he moved to Canada. And the other coach, Koba, is Georgian. I don't know when he moved here, maybe 15 years ago. So they do a big Chidauba tournament every year during this like Georgian festival. And people come and watch it, and they put on a big like show.
They do it on sand, because in Georgia they do it on sand, right?
Yes. In Canada, when they put this on, I'm not sure what they do it on, if they do it on the grass or if they do it on judo mats. I think they bring some judo mats outside and do it on judo mats, just because rather than where they do the festival isn't like at a beach. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Mongolian wrestling as well, Bok. I think that's on sand as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But actually, like falling on sand, it doesn't hurt. It's really nice. It feels like tatami.
Right. Yeah, I've seen videos in some countries that are poorer where they have a whole bunch of sand that they don't pack it, and then they sort of put a tarp around it. Then you don't get covered in sand.
Yeah, but I also did it not. I was not practicing judo, but I was at this. What is it called? Where horses live.
Like a farm.
Stall. Farm.
Okay.
When they are running around the training, and they had some sand there. I was doing fall training for them. Okay. And then I had my athlete with me, and we started to throw each other on that sand.
Right.
And it didn't hurt at all. Like
right.
In the beginning. On mats with us also, but like in then like we don't need the mats because this is so
right.
Falling.
So what were you doing there? Teaching people that work on the farm how to fall?
Break fall, not the farm. The riding.
The riders.
Yeah, the riders.
Jockeys.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
How they fall when they fall off a horse. So.
That's interesting. It's funny. I mean, we're very good at falling, so it's good to teach that skill. Did you ever see the thing? Famously, there was a guy in the Tour de France on the bicycle, where this was maybe 4 or 5 years ago. So one of the guys in the Tour de France flies over the head of the bicycle in the middle of that race, going however fast they're going, and like people have died in that race. And he did a Zempo Kaiten Yukeme and got up fine. And because he's from France, he said he grew up doing judo, and he just didn't even think about it and just did the break fall and got up. And it's like if he hadn't done judo, he could have broken his neck.
Yeah, I don't know. When I lived in Copenhagen, I was cycling everywhere, mm-hmm. And I think I fall 3 times. It's so embarrassing, when I do
right.
it. But I did a perfect ukemi every time.
Right. Yeah.
And it was like. It is working. Because I didn't want it to work.
Yeah.
But I did a perfect ukemi out every time I was falling. But that was also like, I was falling forward. Of course, I just roll over, scratch my hand. But my body was fine.
Right. So outside of the idea of Chidauba, is there other like weird, interesting, not typical training that you do, like growing up? So you would do this sort of no-gi judo throwing where you just wear a belt. Is there anything else like that? Do you ever transition that to newaza, where you do newaza with no-gi? Or
I have done, I remember in my father's dojo we also did newaza with the have our feet together, tie up our legs.
Okay. You tie your own feet together like this, so you couldn't use them? So you're like a worm?
Yes. And this also changed everything, because we do so much in newaza with our legs.
That's very strange.
Yeah.
Do you think that helped you in any way? Or is it just fun?
Yeah, it helps you understand everything. Like, the most important thing with judo is about understanding how to move and how to move your opponent. And to challenge that, then you will be better.
Right.
And have that feeling, have that feeling in your body that when you pull someone, you can feel how that force are moving. And I think that's really good. And of course, we have did a lot of nevas also without allowed to take grip with the hands.
You start using monkey hands like this?
No, only fists all the time. So we just without fists, because then you have to put pressure differently. And I also did a lot of judo in the dark.
You did a lot. Like your dad would run class where he would turn the lights off.
Yes.
Really? Okay, so here's the next serious question. From all those things, how many of those things do you use as a coach now? Do you ever do the leg tie up or the no grabbing or the no lights? Do you do any of that now?
No. But I have to do it if I want to have my athletes be better.
You think so? You think that's a must?
No, I think I have to challenge my athletes all the time. Of course, I do it. I do a lot of judo with closed eyes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not turning off the lights, because if I turn off the lights in my door, we can still see everything. Mm-hmm. But I do a lot of with one athlete closed eyes, mm-hmm. and then the other athlete can make sure they are still on the mat. Mm-hmm. When we did it with my father, I don't think we did tachiwaza. It was on nevasa. Maybe that's why I'm good in nevasa, because everything was always in nevasa.
Right.
But it's funny when we talk about like doing judo in the dark. Mm-hmm. I spoke with some athletes last week about when I can throw anyone with my eyes closed. No, I can feel where the feet are. Mm-hmm. And for someone who don't understand judo, they think, oh no, that's too hard. But for me, like, I think we want to get to that point that I can have full control over my partner. I know exactly where the feet are. Of course, it's easy to throw a Iseonaga or a Koshokuma when the hands are there. But to do a Nokura Shibarai, you should be able to do it with your eyes closed. You should know where the feet are. You should not look down on the feet and know.
Yeah, I've done a lot of newaza with my eyes closed, but no one ever told me to. I just did it. Or like I found as a way to just relax, I would just close my eyes. And in newaza, you're so attached. You could be blind. I don't think it would change. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm being obnoxious, but I don't think it would change my newaza much at all if I couldn't ever open my eyes during newaza. If the rule was your eyes are closed during newaza, you'd feel the same. You feel the pressure so much in newaza.
Yeah, but Josh, now we have to remember you're at one level. I think it's for a beginner, then it's hard.
Right. Right. But yeah, when you're learning it, but when you're practicing it, I'm like, my eyes closed. Yeah, I would just do it just to like relax and chill. Tachiwaza though, I haven't done it much.
I do it a lot in tachiwaza to just get that feeling, especially if I did run with one of my athletes. I normally close my eyes because when I close my eyes, I can feel so much more. I don't know why. Right. But then I can really feel the pressure they put on me, and I can really feel the movements.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think the greater conversation to all of this is that for me, and we never agree on anything, but something we do agree on, right, is that the idea of judo is always trying to be the most efficient. Like back to like the core principle of judo is maximum efficiency. Maximum efficiency doesn't only mean how you perform the sport, right? Like I want to be the most efficient when I apply my uchimata. Okay, fair. I want to be the most efficient when I apply my osoto, but it translates to all aspects. I want to be the most efficient in how my class operates. Because if I'm not efficient with the time of that class, then I'm wasting the athlete's time or they're wasting their own. So, and the efficiency is scaled to everything that we do. How many practices in a week? When do we do those practices? How do we do those practices? How prepared are we for them? Same with weight training, same with sleep as much as get the most efficient amount of sleep so that they're prepared and recovered. So that maximum efficiency, I think about a lot in life of preparation. It's like lazy or the most efficient. I kind of think of both. The more efficient I am, the lazier I can be, And so to me, the one greater thing you think about is what's the most efficient way to get the kids better. At the same time, sometimes there's things you have to do to help keep them engaged, help keep them excited, help them learn in a
That's
different
also,
way.
if you look at the bigger picture, then it's the most efficient way.
Yes.
Because of course, if we start with an athlete that's 14, we know that athlete will never win the Olympic at 16 in 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So we need that athlete to do judo for 10 years more, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And if we just do all this boring stuff all the time, then they will stop after 2 years. So that's not efficient.
Right. So
We
then
have to
there's
look for all.
so there's two answers to that, right? One is we do other things. Now those things still should be beneficial, right?
But is everything? But no.
There should be some benefit. Like for instance, if they come to judo and half the time we only play tag, then we've lost some efficiency.
If not that tag, we're making sure that that athlete continues for more years. Then it's not waste of time.
Right. But then you can get to the point where you're doing too much fluff, and then it's wasting time, right? It's like finding the balance between keeping them engaged and exciting and enjoying judo and being efficient in their learning development, right? It's like that's the balance. Or the other thing is that I think about a lot is how do we make them monotonous? How do we make them boring? Because no matter what, we're going to do a lot of the things over and over and over again. That's how you get better at stuff. How do you make them monotonous, less boring is the other thing too, right? So how do I keep them engaged when they're going to be doing this thing many, many times? So, like for instance, when I teach break falls to little kids, when they're doing judo at 5, 6, 7 years old, they're going to do break falls for a very long time. So just silly ways to make that more of a game because they're doing break falls all the time. So how do I keep them from hating it? But I really need them to learn that skill.
Or do you?
Do I need them to learn the skill of how to fall?
Yeah, kids don't get injured anyway, so.
Right. So do you teach a lot of break falls to your kids or no?
Yes and no. Compared to who you ask, like I'm not the most. I'm not a big fan of break falls. I'm not a big fan. I think it's so boring.
Mm-hmm.
But like in my father's club, I was growing up that we always have to learn the back fall, and that's what you start with, and then with the forward row, then we can wait a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But then one of my gurus in judo teaching, he told me that he's not learning break falls to anyone, and I was like, what? What do you mean? He talked about it for like a very long time, and then he convinced me that it was waste of time. So now I'm not sure if I'm like now in my club we've done it this season as well. Next season I will see what I do, where I will go, if I will continue with or not. Because he started to learn it the forward roll first when they have their level to do it. Like for kids, they are so bad at everything else when it comes to having control of their body, so it doesn't make sense. So he starts with throws, and he learned them how to fall down the throw.
For rolling break falls, I teach it when they're really little, super little actually, but I do a variation of it. So when I teach rolling break falls, I teach them from their knees, where they sort of put their shoulder on the ground and kick their feet over, and they pick that up very easy. Them learning that is easier than learning a somersault. So I often teach that, which they learn very quickly at a young age, and then as they feel ready, they graduate to standing or standing on to then go to their knee. So that one, I do teach, but there's like a variation that I do so they learn it quickly. The other thing for break falls, I've seen it and been around it a million times. When I was growing up, we used to do like half the class was break falls. I don't
So
teach,
boring.
yes. So I don't teach often because of my position, and I'm not a club coach anymore. I don't teach break falls very often. But when I was running a club, my version of break falls is it's in the warm up. So the break falls, we would do 10 Mai Yukame, 10 Yushido Yukame, and 20 Yoko Yukame every day. And it would just be really quick as part of your break falls. And so it'd be like, here we go, here's how we do it, remind them, and then I'd sort of make a silly game out of it and count in a funny way or whatever. And then it doesn't take that much time. We get through it and it's just part of warm up is how I would do it.
Yeah.
But I can see, like, I wouldn't want to do it where we teach it half the class because I'm going to end up with 0 students.
I will meet my guru this weekend, and I will talk more about him about this.
Where's this guru from?
Sweden.
Interesting.
I've been growing up with my father and his friend, I guess he is. Mm-hmm. Those are the only one I trust when it comes to judo, when they've been teaching judo for so long and they have so interesting thoughts on judo the whole time.
Yeah.
I'm having 2 training camps with them every year, and I get a lot from hosting a training camp with them. But those evenings talks when I can talk judo with them, it's so good. I learn so much from them.
Right.
And it's interesting.
I'm guessing your father and your guru don't agree on everything as well, right?
They agree on a lot of things.
A lot of things.
They are from
Do they agree? Do they agree on break falls? Does your dad teach break falls?
He's not a big fan of it. And now I think this guy, he told me last year, I think it was last year, he said, no, I'm not teaching it anymore.
Right.
Like, oh, okay. And then I start thinking, maybe I don't need to do it.
Right. Interesting. So if you're teaching, so here's the next one. You're teaching kids that are, let's say, 7. They're white belts. So you have 10 7-year-olds. What's your class like for a 7-year-old that hasn't done judo before? How long is it, and what's the format of that class typically? Okay, here, let's make it even more specific. You've got 10 kids. They're about 7 years old. It's their first class ever. How long is that class? And what are you going to do?
I have 45 minutes for 7 years old.
Okay.
And we start with some warm-up. Boom, boom, boom.
Wait.
A game as a warm-up.
Okay. Yeah, specifics.
And if I have a lot of new guys, then in the beginning, when they get taken, then they should just try to lift the other one up. They stand with their hands out. They have to come up, lift them up. Later, we do it with throw. They throw each other. Mm-hmm. But in the beginning, I just want to lift up to get this, body contact. They should be able to not be afraid of it. Mm-hmm. And then after 7 minutes, around that, then we do some gymnastics. Depends on what level they are. Mm-hmm. And then after that, we end the gymnastics with standing on the hands, because I think that's a really good exercise, like up on the wall. Mm-hmm. And then after that, we do some technical session, show some technique, and then after that, depends on they were new. You said. Mm-hmm. If it's in the beginning, if I have a lot of new guys, then I would do some games before, wrestling games before I do a technical session. But if there was one or 2 guys new, then I would do technical session first, and then would do some wrestling games, and then I would do some runnery, and then I would do that's 45 minutes.
Yeah. So our first class, if we were both teaching a class, would be different. So there you go. So my first session typically is like, you know, they run around the mats, do some jumping and that kind of thing. Then we sort of turn animal movements, games, get some like dexterity and agility. Then I'll teach.
And this is for 7-year-olds.
7-year-olds, yeah. And then when I do the movements across the mats, I usually teach them in different levels because you have different levels of kids. So I'll show like 3 different versions of a somersault. A typical one, a really easy version, sort of from their knees. And then for the kids that are more capable, because sometimes they are, I'll show them sort of a handstand one. If they can't do it, then they think it's cool to see. And then I'll do the same thing with backwards rolls, and we'll do like monkey walks and like bears and all this, duck walks and that kind of stuff. And then typically I give them a quick water break because I give the kids water breaks constantly. And then I usually do a little quiz about break falls. What's the most important part of judo? Break falls. What's the most important part of a break fall? Tuck in your head. And then we go over it and sort of make it a game, count silly, and we do back break falls, front break falls, side break falls, and sort of make things about that silly, exaggerate the injury they could have if they don't do it properly today on the mats, that they're going to shatter their nose, and they'll giggle and sort of make a game. Then the first thing I teach, if it's their first time, pretty much every single time is zombie roll, or I call zombie roll. People call it fat man roll, a bunch of other things, but you're in the turtle, someone reaches over your back, trap the arm.
Spring roll. We call it spring roll.
Spring roll? Okay. I call it the zombie roll. So you roll over from turtle, which puts someone into Yushido Kezukitame. So now they've learned a pin. They've learned a way to get to that pin from turtle, and they've learned that in the turtle, you shouldn't just stay there. Then I'll typically teach a way to attack the turtle, like a half Nelson or the bulldozer, something along those lines that's nice and easy. So now they've learned to move to attack the turtle, 1 to defend in the turtle, and 2 different pins. And then by the time they've done that and they've had another water break, you're probably close to 35-40 minutes. So then we might, depending on the time, we might do Newaza Randori, or depending, we might do British Bulldog. And so basically we've done Randori, learned 2 pins and 2 rollovers that we can review, and they've learned 3 different break falls and a whole bunch of different body movements. And so it's like very play oriented.
How long is it training?
Sort of depends. I would say for that age, either 45 minutes or an hour. But it's a very like jam-packed period of time where it's like we do something, we'll do a few things, water break, do a few things, water break, do a few things, water break, and it's really like pretty scheduled.
Yes, I started with 45 minutes here when I took over the club. Mm-hmm. And I think everyone else is doing like 1 hour, 1.5 hours. Mm-hmm. And I think like 45 minutes is the perfect amount of time. The kids is not getting tired, and they have high energy the whole time. And this is for a 7-year-old. You know, when my class from 5 to 6-year-old, the first class, then I only have 35 minutes. I have 30 to 35 minutes
right.
of teaching, and then I have 10 minutes in the end of just free playing. They can do whatever they want on the mat. And so they have 45 minutes on the mat, but the last 10 minutes they can just play whatever they want.
Seven's like a funny one because often my classes would be more like 5, 6, 7 or 5, 6. So 5, 6, depending, maybe some young 7-year-olds or more like less mature 7-year-olds. Then in that group, if they're
then I understand you also have an animal, because I also play with animals with the 5 to 6-year-olds.
Right. Yeah, and the other thing that I do is with break falls, because it becomes a game, is everybody knows tag or freeze tag. So if it's really little, then yeah, my class is definitely 45 minutes. And instead of doing Newaza Randori or British Bulldog, I'll often do freeze tag, because every kid loves tag. And then instead of crawling through the legs, then they do a break fall to unfreeze the person, and then they practice their break falls again. If they're a little bit older, like 7, 8, 9, then it's usually Newaza Randori and or British Bulldog to end it. But it's like very much learning a skill, but the whole time is like trying to, the other thing that I think about is like, because we talk about games, is like judo should be the game too, right? And sometimes if the game at the end is something else, then they're doing judo to get to the game. But if we can make them think that judo is the game, which it is, the whole thing is to think judo is fun, So I do think about that sometimes at the end of the class. Like, I don't want the kids to think we're doing all this so we can play dodgeball, which dodgeball's fun. But I want them to be excited about randori, and that randori is the game. That tachiwaza randori is the game, is like the goal to me. So I think that's the slight variation as well.
Yeah. Like with 7-year-old, I also do a lot of like jumping over each other.
Right.
I think I'm doing a lot of that back and forward, and because I realized that judo is a lot of cross-coordinated movements in judo, and understand that your legs have to do something with when the arms are doing something else. Mm-hmm. It's really helpful, and it's really hard for kids in the beginning, if they've never done it before. Mm-hmm. That they have to jump first and then later push with the arms. It's hard for most kids.
What about teaching techniques on the opposite side? When do you do that?
Never. You
never teach them a technique on the other side?
No.
Interesting. Why not?
They do this what they want.
So when it comes to throwing in a different direction, you just look at a different technique that can fulfill that?
No, like 50% of the time they're doing it right way, 50% they're doing left ways. But in the end of the day, leftists are supposed to be forbidden in the future. So I need leftists.
I forget about that rule with you sometimes.
No, but I don't teach them they have to do it both ways. Like if they ask me, shall we do both ways? I'm like, yeah, you can try it both ways. But make sure you have one way good first.
Yeah, I think. So for me, I have a couple things about this that are funny. One is I try not to teach Ippon Seiwanage right-handed at all. If you're right-handed, I try not to teach a right Ippon Seiwanage, because they start learning to do Ippon Seiwanage from the sleeve, which is a rule I don't really like. And number two, it's very easy for me to be lazy in a sense of never teaching them to turn the other direction in a left-handed technique.
That's quite funny, because I always teach Seiwanage from right. If they're righties, I teach them right, but I teach them from the lapel grip.
Okay, right. So what I do is I say...
And I'm doing that because I want them to understand they can change grips. They don't have to have a classic kumikata grip.
Right. And what I do is I teach them a left Seiwanage as the first Seiwanage.
Yeah, I understand that.
And then and then it's like you keep the lapel, and then it forces me to get them to turn the other direction, and that's how they learn Ippon Seiwanage. But if they learn Marote, then it's the other direction. Yeah.
But I want them to understand they should not have the same grip the whole time, because it feels like some kids, they think they have to have the classic kumikata grip all the time. Mm-hmm. Instead of with one in the lapel, one in the sleeve. Like, don't do it. Go for the best grip in the world. Take it back.
Right.
Okay. That's understanding.
Yeah, that's funny. I do the left sail because then.
And I had one kid last year. The first throw he learned, he came to the training when we were supposed to do kozugake from both hands in the back. Uh-huh. And when it was runnery, he always went for that back grip with both hands and did kozugake. I'm like, wow, this is how I want everyone to play. So maybe I should just learn them that from the beginning.
Yeah. Here's the other thing. I think we don't give our athletes enough credit of what they can learn sometimes. So we try to, make things lesser. I think they're capable of more. The other thing I was going to say about teaching the opposite side, it's very classical in judo to just teach Seiwanage, like a Seo, as your opposite side technique, as if other techniques are too complicated. But then when you watch, what's his name now? 2004 Olympic champion from Korea in 73 kilos. Won-hee Lee. Yeah.
Only Won-hee.
Yeah.
Won-hee.
Won-hee Lee. Yeah, he does taitoshi both sides. And when I saw him do taitoshi both sides, and I think his left taio is even better, his one-handed taio, I was like, then I've always thought, if you have a skill, whether it's Uchimata or Seiwanage, lots of people that have a Seiwanage, yes, Seiwanage is basic, okay, whatever. But like Uchimata is more complicated, or Taio can be a more complicated technique. But that doesn't mean necessarily that that person is good at a Seiwanage. So that person translating their Uchimata to the other side, or their Taitoshi to the other side, might be easier than them learning a new technique on the other side. So it's like, if you're not a Seiwanage person, your Seiwanage is not very good, but your Taitoshi is. Learning something that you already know how to do and just mirroring it may be easier than learning a Seiyo on the other side when you're not even very good at Seiyo.
Yes, no, I don't know, maybe.
You know, it's like, if you already know how to do something,
I follow you. I'm not sure what's easiest.
Yeah, but I think automatically that the automatic answer is another side Seiyo isn't a given. I may be wrong that it's easier to learn, or maybe you can, or maybe it's harder, but I think the automatic answer being a Seiyo the other side, I don't think that should be a rule of thumb either. It's like, it's worth seeing. Maybe you can learn Taio the other side. Maybe that's easy for you. Maybe Uchimata the other side can be easy for you. Maybe. Because you already know how to do Uchimata, or you already know how to do Taio.
Maybe. But another interesting thing I was talking with some friends during the weekend is about, we want this playing runnery. Everyone wants that the kids, they should play runnery and have fun. And like on all levels. And then we started about why is it so hard to get kids to play runnery and just have fun? And then I told them, like, I think it's because we're learning them techniques. Because if you take two kids from the street, put them and say, usually let's wrestle each other, there would be so much like movement and really play runnery. But when we start to like put techniques on them and say, yeah, this is a technique, they will only go for that. So learning techniques is also moving away from this playfulness, I think.
So what's your solution?
I don't know. Don't learn.
Hey, the first part is to identify the problem, right? First, we must identify the problem. That's step one. Step two is to have the solution. So step one, I agree with you may be right.
But yeah, like if we take two kids from the streets and say yes, wrestle each other,
it's fun.
They would all over each other and get really close, and everything looks good. And then we start putting a lot of techniques on them, and things will disappear.
What about a reward system? Maybe we could do a reward system. If you throw a technique you've never thrown in randori before for the first time, right? If you just have a rule, dojo rule is, if you throw someone in randori...
I have done a lot of games like this, but the only problem, I haven't figured out a game that makes sure that you also get points by getting thrown with something. Because I also have, as an uki, you have to be open for the other one to let the other one get in. So you should get some points by being thrown with the Uchimata or something. Like, you should try to be open for that.
What about a point system for getting countered? What do you think about that?
Points for getting countered?
Because if you get countered...
No, points for counting. Double points for counter the other one. That's good. So you're letting the other one in, but then you can counter them. Good one, Josh. But you hate it, so I don't know why you suggested that. But yeah, that's a good one.
I'm not sure we're agreeing on this one.
Yeah, but that's good, because then you want the other one to get in, yes, so you're open up, but then you get double score if you can counter that one. Yeah, that's good.
Okay, what about this? How about this, to make this another level? You and I are doing randori. Yeah. If I get countered, I get points, because... No. Just wait. Because I had to attempt to apply a technique, and if I get countered, that it means that I put in an attack. you can still get more points than me for successfully countering, but I should still be reinforced for attempting to throw you. So we both benefit, but you benefit more for getting a score, but I still get a benefit.
Yes, and if I counter you and I don't get the score and you just land on the stomach or something, then you only get score over.
Yeah, then I get a score because I did something. I attempted to throw you. You didn't get a score, but you tried to counter me, so good effort.
You're doing a bad Tsuyotoshi, and I almost counter you.
Yeah, at least I attempted to do judo, right? And then if you...
That's how the rules are today. You can just attack and get the other one passivity.
It's tricky, huh?
It's tricky. You have to make it... I think... and the hard thing is when the kids learn how to play the game, then they are... Then they will figure out...
the rules too much. They game the rule system. Just like in the IGF, people game the rule system by doing attacks just to get... So then it goes back to, maybe then our solution is to make it play-based. Close your eyes, lights off, Chidauba Judo Gis. Maybe when the leg grabs come back, only techniques where you grab the leg, you know?
Yeah. But I think maybe that's the reason, maybe that's the solution. You are not allowed to do leg grabs. You're only allowed to do Sutemivasa. Only allowed to do Tevasa.
Yeah, like handcuff them in what they're allowed to do. Handcuff them in what they're allowed to do. So we take away things. We take away eyesight. We take away the sleeves of the gi. We take away any drop techniques if they like drop sewanagi. We make it so you can only clinch.
Yeah.
We could, one that would be interesting, and there'd be so many throws, I just might be a little worried about someone getting killed. I think Osotogari might be, in some ways, the most important throw in judo for same side, right on right or left on left. So
the most important.
Yeah. So what if I said you're only allowed to do versions of Osoto against each other? Now I'm worried because some people are going to get thrown real hard. But the Osotos are going to get really good.
Always. We got all of the kids on the guy.
Well, that's more typical. So that's more typical of like 7 and 8 year olds. When athletes are 15, you rarely see an Osoto, right? Only the really good Osoto players do Osoto at 15, I think, because they already did that when they were 6 and 7.
Maybe that's true. Osoto is one of my favorite throws, so
it's one of my. I teach Osoto with like 6 different grips and. Chop Osoto and Eddie Osoto and Classic Osoto and High Elbow Osoto and 2-on-1 Osoto and
so many differences.
Yeah, so many variations.
That's just about talking about Osoto.
Yeah, it's the best.
Yes.
Huh. Okay. Next, you said you've heard some rumors maybe about. We have one episode just about rules that's dropping, but you said you may have heard more rumors about the new rule set coming in.
Yeah, everyone are talking about the leg grabs are coming back. So when shall we start practicing it? Shall we start practicing now? Because the kids are so bad at it, so they don't know. Actually, when I was in Estonia, I showed one throw with leg grabs.
Would you show maybe
No, it was Thomas Special, of course. Thomas Special, you can see it next year in Saskatchewan.
Okay. Yeah, I've thought about that too. I mean, it's not that far away. Again, I'm not even in Saskatchewan. I'm only coaching at tournaments until the middle of November. But, and then we're basically a month and a half away from the new rules, right?
Yeah, because if the rules comes in January, and it's starting from January, that...
here's an idea. Here's a podcast idea. Tell me what you think of this. What if we do a watch party for the Paris Grand Slam if they bring leg grabs back, where we pick a period of time to watch the Paris Grand Slam at the same time, and we make a watch party episode so people can watch the Paris Grand Slam with us online, and we talk about watching the event. We watch the event together live. People can join the call or something, and we talk about it because we think there's going to be leg grabs again. See how many leg grabs we watch in a couple hours of watching Paris Grand Slam. What do you think of that?
Yes, that's a good idea.
That could be fun.
Now my wife said that we have to finish up.
Okay.
Are you finished?
So here we'll just make this official. We want to do a watch party for Paris Grand Slam. If they bring back leg grabs, you and I will watch live, and other people can join the call. If you think that's a good idea,
Then everyone has to remember that I was really good at leg grabs.
you were
when I
really
was
good at leg
15.
grabs. Wow. Okay.
It would be so fun to play. Maybe I have to come we can do a watch party if I'm not competing at the Paris Grand Slam. Okay.
Yes, and if you are competing at the Paris Grand Slam, you may no longer be married.
And maybe. All right.
But if any of our audience thinks it's a good idea, this watch party idea, shoot us a little post a message, comment, that kind of thing. And if we get some feedback on it, then we'll plan the watch party for Paris Grand Slam.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Until, what do we say at the end? What's our closeout?
Get out.
Get out. All right. Thank you.
Until next time.
Until next time. Till next week.